This program is powered by AIM Employers Association and Ogletree Deacons, a Feature Group USA production.
Hello, everybody. I'm Phil Brandt, President and CEO of AIM Employers Association. A recent Gallup article states that 51% of remote-capable employees are still working hybrid, and they're in the office less than 2.5 days a week. Disengagement's getting harder to see and easier to ignore. Today, we're talking about the quiet signals leaders are missing and why showing up always means someone tuned in. All this and more this week at work.
Welcome to This Week at Work, the only show to pack workplace news, practical HR solutions, and timely insights into every 30-minute episode. From the latest rulings in the courtroom to the strategies unfolding in the boardroom, and from real conversations taking place on the front lines to spotlighting what similar companies are doing about the challenges they face, This Week at Work brings you the conversations that matter most to HR professionals and business leaders like you. Brought to you by AIM Employers Association and Ogletree Deacons, live every Thursday morning. This is your opportunity to connect with their experts and ask your burning questions. So what's keeping you up at night? Let's face it together now on This Week at Work.
Good morning, Burt. Welcome back, everyone. How are you today, Mr. Garland?
I'm doing well, Phil. I haven't watched the program for last week, but somebody mentioned to me that you and Melissa were really talking a lot of smack about me last week.
Well, Burt, I have nothing but wonderful thoughts of you and appreciation for your involvement on This Week at Work. But Melissa, now as a coworker, she was all over you, Nick. Bert, I was surprised that a coworker would say some of the things that she said about someone that is thought of so highly as you are. So maybe next time when you can't make it and you got to recommend a guest, give it a second thought.
I'm sure that first of all, I'll have to go back and watch that program, but I'm sure Melissa was backed by more than popular demand.
She is absolutely wonderful, and she did a great job. And anytime that you're out, I'm happy to have her on the program. I think you and I both know the value that she represents and brings, particularly to our listeners. She did a great job. We're always happy to have her. But we did have a little fun at your expense, and it was just out of love, Bert. That's all it was.
I could feel it, Phil. I could feel it.
All right. Are you ready for Lawyer on the Clock?
I am ready for Lawyer on the Clock, Phil.
All right, Nick, pull that lever.
Curious about a case that could wreck your workplace? Lucky for you, we have a lawyer on the clock.
Phil, it's not going to surprise you, and I feel like I'm beating a dead horse sometimes, but I just want to make sure that we are keeping all of our viewers and listeners up to date on the latest developments going on in the legal world. And this week is no change from a lot of what we've been talking about so far in the last year. And this has to do with DE&I, diversity, equity, and inclusion in the crosshairs. So just last week, the EEOC voted, as I mentioned before on a program, they voted 2-1 to rescind its 2024 workplace harassment guidance. That move, the agency's leadership describes as necessary to restore proper legal boundaries and ensure that the commission operates squarely within the authority granted by Congress. And, so this kind of gets back to the whole Looper-Bright decision from the Supreme Court and the administrative agencies, kind of the trend that's been going on that the administrative agencies need to operate within the confines of what Congress set up. They can't just go out on their own and start issuing basically new laws. The chair, Andrea Lucas, emphasized the rescission of the guidance does not weaken protections for workers. She said instead it prevents the EEOC from issuing interpretations that courts have repeatedly said exceed its mandate. So kind of reining the EEOC in. The government's position is that removing the guidance strengthens the integrity of the enforcement process by ensuring that harassment standards continue to rest on established law rather than agency-created interpretations. So the EEOC underscored that all of the existing protections under Title VII, the ADA, ADEA, GINA, the Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act, and the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act remain fully enforceable. What they noticeably left out of that is that protections for LGBTQIA plus really is the target of the rescission of this harassment guidance.
So what, and kind of in a layman's term, what does that mean if I'm a business leader hearing this from us today? What does that mean for them to do, not do, be aware of?
Yeah, so this harassment guidance was issued during the Biden administration. It means you ignore the harassment guidance that the EEOC issued during the Biden administration, and you go back to the case law interpretations of what constitutes harassment in the workplace.
Okay, that's simple enough, right?
It seems simple enough.
Little bit of flip-flopping, which we're all tired of, and I know it's exhausting to business leaders, and your and I's position is just take a position and stay there. Let us get good at what we're doing, but we're going back to
the pendulum swinging. That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Good.
All right.
What else you got, Burt?
Not to be outdone, Republican-led states are rapidly dismantling affirmative action and DE&I requirements in public employment and contracting, which means that they're really trying to align their policies with President Trump's administration's rollback of contractor affirmative action orders. There's new bills in Texas, North Carolina, New Hampshire, very importantly in Missouri, that would ban considering protected traits or promoting DE&I. Also, states like Ohio, Tennessee, and importantly for our listeners, Indiana, have already removed data collection and EEO-related requirements in public contracting. So just our viewers need to be aware of that. Missouri has a bill that may or may not pass. We do have a Republican-led administration and legislative body in Missouri. And so this does have a chance of passing. And again, it would kind of align Missouri with Indiana, which would then align with the federal government. The move really aims to preempt laws like the Department of Justice's challenge to Minnesota's program. And they reflect a belief that affirmative action creates unlawful race or sex-based preferences. Democrat-led states are moving in the opposite direction. They're trying to codify or put into law equal opportunity requirements to prevent federal rollbacks. And so, of course, Phil, we end up in that tug of war that increases risk and complexity for employers operating across multiple jurisdictions.
Yeah. So your first example there, we're flip-flopping. On this one, we're paving new ground that's been established for many years, and it sounds like it's really a division of states. The states are anchoring in their position of political preference, I guess, and what their beliefs are, either siding with the president or doing things to protect from the position that the current presidential administration has taken.
That's right. I mean, it is really an example or the forefront of the blue versus red battle.
Yeah, and in many ways, making it much harder on everyone listening to this program on what to do, particularly when you have multi-state businesses.
That's right. That's when they need to reach out to AIM for some guidance or to Ogletree or their Labor and Employment Council, especially if they're in multi-state.
Yeah, I think it's, again, and we always mention, it's just important if you are engaged in DE&I type practices, or even you think it's something different than that, but any kind of practice that's focusing on how we're treating individuals in any special way, through committees, initiatives, those types of things, to have that policy and those practices looked at to make sure you're not accidentally stepping into something. It's not that you're going in the wrong direction. It's that sometimes you end up in the wrong place and you're not aware of the risk and how you got there. And it's a good idea to have AIM or someone at Ogletree just talk through what you're trying to do and why, and let's get you on the right path just in case you're not being, in a position of less risk. Let's put you
Well,
that way.
that's all well said, Phil. And talking about risk, that's a perfect segue into my next one here. And I do just have two more that I want to talk about. Yesterday, the EEOC, we've been talking about the EEOC and their new direction. They sued Nike, the athletic wear shoe company, in federal court to force the company to comply with a subpoena tied to an investigation that they have going on into alleged discrimination against white employees. So the EEOC probe stems from a 2024 commissioner's charge that was initiated by EEOC Chair Andrea Lucas. And of course, we've talked about her on the program. She's prioritized scrutiny of corporate DE&I programs that she views as potentially violating Title VII. The EEOC said that Nike had not fully provided the documents and data that the EEOC requested, including information related to alleged race-based hiring, promotion, layoff decisions, and internal diversity targets. So that just goes to show you what the risk is right now, that if you have a DE&I program, you are at risk of the federal government coming after you. Interestingly, the EEOC also just in the last few days hired an attorney named Benjamin North. He's an attorney known for representing men who have been accused of sexual misconduct and also for challenging Title IX proceedings in the educational field. In his appointment, the lawsuit against Nike really does show where the EEOC is going all of this. And then, not to be outdone, the last one I just want to chat about briefly, on January 30th, 2026, the Federal Trade Commission, all right, so not even the EEOC, but the Federal Trade Commission, which deals with anti-competitive behavior in the United States, issued warning letters to 42 law firms concerning their participation in diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. And they specifically targeted firms that are involved in what's called the Mansfield Certification program, run by a consultancy called the Diversity Lab. So interestingly, the FTC's approach, it applies antitrust law to the labor markets rather than traditional civil rights law. They're asserting basically, or looking into whether the letter suggests that coordinating on DE&I metrics, such as candidate pool quotas, could constitute illegal collusion and distort competition for legal talent. The agency also cautioned that regular knowledge sharing calls between competitor firms through the program could facilitate the unlawful exchange of sensitive information regarding pay and hiring, and could operate to suppress wages and restrict job mobility for legal professionals. So really interesting about what the FTC is doing. I think what this looks like is we've seen sort of in the last probably 15 plus years, and it's gotten more and more prevalent as time has gone on. But this kind of looks like what I would call the whole of government approach to sort of enforce the priorities of the administration, using all of the administrative agencies at the same time to enforce the agenda of President Trump. And again, I'm not commenting one way or the other on any of this, other than to say this is what's going on out there. Employers really, really need to be cautious these days about these types of programs.
Yeah, no, I think that's well said. And sometimes these programs aren't even any longer called D&I, but they're simple workplace, and I'll call them innocent sometimes, workplace initiatives that are called inclusion, and and you're trying to involve everyone and do things under that umbrella, maybe even without any intent to discriminate. And that's where I think there's some risk. That's where I'm asking employers to be careful, maybe be a little bit risk adverse, and get a look under under the pages of your policy to make sure that your practices are not going to unintentionally cause you a problem.
Yeah, I think the upshot, Phil, you asked a really good question. What can employers do? And I think that prior to the harassment guidance being issued and prior to a lot of the DE&I efforts that were put into place, all employers needed to have a policy prohibiting harassment, discrimination, and retaliation in the workplace. That's really what the law says. And if employers revert to that mindset, they may go a long way toward protecting themselves. I'm not encouraging anyone to abandon a DE&I program. I'm just encouraging people to companies to be thoughtful about what they're doing. And if they are looking for a way to avoid government scrutiny, sort of returning to that as the focus, maybe a safe path.
Yeah, it's really about risk mitigation. And, I get a chance to be very up close and personal with a lot of HR professionals. And one of the things that I see and I notice is, and this is happening across the country when we look at the behaviors of people, is there are a lot of professionals that practice HR or business leaders themselves who are they believe in what they're doing, regardless to what the position of the government is saying. They believe in this, and they don't mean any harm, but their belief is in contrast to what the administration is saying or what the state is saying. And it's interesting that some of them unintentionally, I believe, don't recognize that they're putting their organization at risk because of their belief. They're going to press on. We're still going to fight the cause of DE&I or whatever their real core belief is. And that is what puts the company at risk. And we have to take our beliefs and put them to the side, and make sure that we're going through a risk mitigation process, and then practicing within, the limits of our risk tolerance. And that is what really creates concern for me, is when I really don't care what I'm hearing, what the EEOC is saying today. I choose to believe this, and I'm going to demonstrate my belief through the practice of these policies at work. And everyone in the workplace will follow suit because that's the professional who should know better. Mm-hmm. And so I'm hoping that people listen to that and can put their belief to the side, consider the risk, and take the path that's going to be best for the organization in that case.
Yeah,
I see it all the time. I hear it all the time, and how people don't necessarily want to go that way. And it's kind of the state of today, right? It's like, well, we don't like ICE, so I don't believe in that. I'm going to go protest and stand against it. I don't like what this group over here is saying, so I'm going to stand against that out loud and project myself. When we're at work, we cannot do those things.
Yeah, well, I think what it really boils down to is that no matter what people's intentions are, they need to make sure that they are not using DE&I really as a subterfuge to implement quotas in the workplace, that they're making
now, Burt, what did you call it? A what?
A backdoor to implement quotas in the workplace.
Got to keep it simple for guys like me.
A backdoor to implement quotas in the workplace where they're trying to include people, and what that ends up doing is excluding other people, and that's the tightrope that people need to walk.
Yeah, no, exactly. And, I don't know if you're done. I know we got a quick message from Amy Hart, but this is such a good segue to Tanya Zion and talking about retention being better and improved from where it has been in years past, but engagement being down. It's almost in the same vein of conversation. So, Burt, thank you very much. Nick, do you have a special message from Amy Hart?
All right, it's time to check in with the eyes and ears of AIM and everyone's favorite AI-driven HR advisor. Amy, take it away.
Thanks, producer Nick. Here's what's happening at AIM this week and why it matters, according to Amy. First up, on February 22nd, it's 6 in 26, a power-packed morning that tackles the 6 biggest challenges shaping leadership priorities this year: labor trends, legal shifts, and the cultural forces that are reshaping how we manage people. It's fast-paced, practical, and designed for leaders. Then on March 26th, we tip off Succession Madness. This hands-on workshop helps you build a championship bench, whether you're facing retirements, rapid growth, or just want to stop scrambling when roles open up. And looking ahead to May 15th, AIM's 12th Annual Leadership Conference is back. This is our flagship event, packed with insight, inspiration, and connection for leaders at every level. All right, so that's what's new, what's next, and what matters, all according to Amy.
All right. Thank you, Amy Hart. And Tanya, welcome back to the program. It's always good to have you on the program. And Amy is promoting one of the programs you're going to be hosting for us in March, our March Madness event.
That's right. Well, thanks for having me, Phil. I'm always happy to be here, and I'm super excited about that succession planning event. I think that's going to be a really strong takeaway for all of our attendees, and I look forward to working with all our members.
Yeah. I know you're sitting in queue waiting and in part of the conversation, hearing the conversation Burt and I were having. And I'd like to just transition that right into where we're at with engagement being down, but retention is up. And sometimes when we have good retention, we just make the basic assumption that, hey, well, engagement is good. Where do we want to? It doesn't always mean that employees who stay are engaged.
Yeah, I would totally agree. Gallup agrees with you too. They just came out with their annual findings on employee engagement, and that's absolutely the case. People are staying. The job market, we're hearing everywhere that the job market is really scary. No shade to Amy, but AI has definitely had an impact on that and how we connect employers to qualified candidates. And but it's interesting because the conversation that you and Burt were just having, there's 2 statistics in that Gallup data that really stands out. And the first is we saw a 13-point decline in the statement, "My supervisor or someone at work seems to care about me as a person."
Man, that is a big decline. 13 points is like jumping off the cliff at the Grand Canyon on a number like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was really among the Gen Zers and the younger millennials. So you're talking about a big percentage of our workforce that's seeing a big drop off. And then slightly behind it at an 11-point decline was this year I've had opportunities to work and learn at work, to learn and grow. And so I can't help but hold a little bit of tension from the conversation we were just having, right? We've had all of these changes where we have literally been required to do an about face on some of the programs that we have and how we title them. And at the core, if we lean into the objective of that, was to really make people feel like, hey, we want to pour into you and develop you. And I think that the focus, for a multitude of reasons, not only the federal regulations, we've taken the emphasis off of that a little bit. And then we combine that with, believe it or not, we are still recovering from everything that happened with the pandemic. You know, we talked about the Great Resignation. We talked about doing more with less. And I'm in organizations all the time that we are still doing deep org dev work because it's just changed. The work has changed. The demands have changed. And I don't think we have full realignment. And so what the data is telling us in this engagement data is people don't have clarity around what's expected of them. And Phil, I'm going to preempt you a little bit because I'm not talking about acceptable behaviors. That's a whole nother conversation. And I think we need some help for our Gen Zers on that. But it's really those KPIs, right? How many X do I need to have completed to have this be successful? What does exceptional look like? And that's really what we're talking about. People don't feel like they're being developed. They don't have clarity to know, hey, when I leave work today, how do I give myself like a high five and like, hey, I did a good job? Those things are not becoming clear in the workplace. And when we run in this level of uncertainty and we're not celebrating wins, the very next thing that happens is burnout. And so that's what the data is showing us. We just have a lot of people who are really burnt out in the workplace. They're not moving because the known feels more comfortable than the unknown, but they're also not coming in and giving their best work.
Yeah, and it's a little bit difficult for some people in today's time to take the risk and leave an employer and go to an unknown employer. You might be able to get the job, but it's a little bit the devil I know versus the devil I don't know. And this is not the economy or the job market that creates a lot of turnover. So a really bad scenario is that they stay. It's kind of back to that, quitting in place or the quiet quitting that we were talking about several years ago. But it's rooted in the skills and ability of our managers or supervisors. So it's not unusual for me to hear in a training program with supervisors and managers that, it's not so much that people are disengaged. It's that their job, they don't want to do the job it takes to do it well. And there seems to be a disconnect between the mindset of a manager and supervisor and the mindset of those who are being led as to what is the responsibility of a supervisor. And I'll hear people say, it's not my job to motivate. It's not my job to babysit. I spend my time doing it, and it's not. And it creates dissatisfaction for the manager as well. And then that just starts a snowball that you can't stop. As you work with organizations, and you've been able to get very deep and close with some organizations, how do you help transition the mindset that might exist to the mindset that you would hope to see that creates engagement?
So I love this question because I think it really highlights the shift that's happening and how employees orient with the workplace. And we hear a lot, especially like if you're in a boomer and you've been a manager for a long time, that thing of I don't want to babysit. I hear it a lot too. And so what I would ask direct supervisors to do is reorient themselves to the work that they're doing. You don't have to be a babysitter, and you don't have to be a motivator. What you do need to do is provide very clear expectations and show what does good look like. Because I think for a long time, we operated really well under context clues. And I don't know that the newest entrances into the workplace have that ability and skill, right? I remember as mom bringing my kids up and saying, hey, look around you. Is everyone else doing what you're doing? And I would sit, and that's just not something that,
Well, see, I used the other example of that. I was like, Mom, everyone's doing it. Yeah.
But I think there's something in the way that we have trained people through the education system that some of those context clues and critical problem solving skills, the current workforce, I'm talking very generally here, doesn't have it. So if I'm a manager and my job is I have this team of people and I need to align them to the corporate goal. Well, the first thing I need to do as a supervisor is make sure from my supervisor, I am crystal clear on what the expectation is. How do we win? And then I just need to translate that in very clear language of what's expected. And then I need to check in with my people. What's preventing you from getting there? What skills do you need? What extra help do you need? So you don't have to be a babysitter by any means, but you do have to set clear expectations, and then you have to be willing to hold people to those expectations. And so the flip side of that, in that employees aren't moving, I think that we've developed a high level of tolerance to keeping employees that maybe aren't pulling their weight. And that's bringing down the morale of the entire team.
Yeah, no, that definitely has an impact and has always had an impact. It holds the test of time.
Tanya, real quickly, you mentioned something really important, and I think especially in the era of AI, and we've talked about it on the program, the AI's impact on people's critical thinking skills and the younger workforce's critical thinking skills. And I think the term that I've seen tossed around out there, the negative impacts of AI is the risk of cognitive offloading. And I think that really is a true risk of AI these days, that if the younger workforce is or I should say the newer workforce is using AI, are they missing out on those critical thinking opportunities, things that will benefit them in the long run?
Yeah, I think this is such an important point, and it's really interesting. I know I talk about my kids, but they are that Gen Z generation. They're in college right now. And when I talk about using any type of AI technology, I mean, it is almost like I am the worst person ever. Mom, dear, you're running the environment, and that rots your brain. And so you can tell the messaging they're getting in their higher learning institutions is to stay away from it. And I think that people understand, we're getting an understanding that if you're learning something, AI is probably not the best tool for output. It might be a great tool for input, right? It can make flashcards, it can help you learn, it can do a lot of those things. But if you're trying to create outputs and you are a new learner, we know that it's not working well. And the other thing that I always come back to is that the way we learned, right? This is a digital native generation. And I can tell you, anytime they had to learn something, all they had to do was log in to their LMS. And on the side, there was a checkbox of everything that they needed to do. And so they had step one, step two, step three. And I guarantee if we go into any workplace and I look for your SOPs, one, if you have them, that's great. But two, to what level of detail are those SOPs written, right? Does it show what good looks like, how not to do something? Because that's the way that people have learned. And so, Phil, I absolutely agree with our supervisors that we're talking about, that they don't want to be babysitters. And at the same time, I think as institutions and organizations, we really need to look at how are we educating the workforce and how are we defining what good looks like, and are we giving them the tools that they need? Because from the employee perception, that's where we're really falling down in our organizations.
Tanya, I'm a very big believer in the personal drives the professional, and I think there's in my experience over my career, I have seen that demonstrate more than any other statement I can think of. The personal drives the professional. And if you could peek at the personal, you're going to get a really good idea of how the professional will behave, the expectations, and maybe the collective output that you get. And the other day, as you know, and many of our listeners know, I have 5 grandchildren.
Yeah.
And all of them were at the house the other day, and they're all having a great time with all of my kids. And it was just a great day. And I had this, light bulb moment from my personal experiences. So I'm watching newborn babies all the way to, almost 4-year-olds. That's the age span. No matter which child we were interacting with, the interaction was over the top, just over the top. Like they smiled, oh, and we celebrate.
Yeah.
Oh, she looked at me and made eye contact. We celebrate. They sat up by themselves. Oh, we celebrate. The older kids would dance to a song and we celebrate. Whatever was happening, there was all this constant celebrate. By the end of the day, I was exhausted, and all I did is celebrate these little achievements that the kids had. And about, I don't know, an hour before the evening was over, I realized this is the challenge that we're having at work, right? These, in my generation and the generation before me, the kids, you ate in the other room at your own table.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't eat with the adults. I mean, we got kids on our laps and things being spilled and high chairs pulled up around the table and booster seats and all these other things. There was no, what do you call them? No phone books. Anyway,
Yeah.
but, and there was the kids played in the other room and the adults interacted in this room. And so those things in the workplace look like, show up as that kid who comes into or that adult now who comes into the workplace and is like, hey, I showed up today on time. Where's my celebration? Hey, I did all the tasks you asked me to do. Where's my celebration? And it's so easy to translate that because every step of their way, they get celebrated, they get the participation award, everybody gets a chance to play, all these things. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying that expectation doesn't stop one day when I show up at work and do a job that I think should be celebrated and no one even notices. And the complication to that is if I'm at home, it's even harder to see. But I still expect a celebration.
Yeah. So let me reframe that a little bit because I do agree. I think that the way that our approach to raising children and educating to children has, definitely shifted over the last generations. It's undeniable. But let me give a different example. And you are too. I'm a boat person. I love to be out on the lake. Like that is where I find connection. And part of the reason I like it is that whether you're wake surfing or wakeboarding, it kind of doesn't matter what skill you're at. But if you progress to the next step, everybody on the boat goes crazy. We're throwing bananas at you or anything else we can, right? It doesn't matter that you can't land the flip. If you were able to land a 180, we're going to celebrate wildly for you. And so rather than celebrating people for maybe just showing up, what I'm going to encourage managers to do, and what I think this is really hard to do, is what's the next incremental step for everyone on your team? And that's what we need to celebrate. That's how we have good teamwork and we feel like we're together. And I mean, I go on boats with, this sounds bad, but strangers, right? I've never met them before. I've never been on a boat where somebody's learning a new skill and that same environment didn't exist. Hey, what are they trying to land? And when they do, we are so excited for them. And so I think as supervisors, we have the opportunity to get to know our people, to invest in them in really short snippets of time and say, hey, what's the next thing they need to get good at?
Yeah, and that's a great way to frame it.
Yeah, when they do get good at it, celebrate the heck out of it. Not just for showing up, right? There's a floor that we can expect of employees, but good managers let people know they care about them and care about their development. And that does take time. So if you're an owner listening, and especially in the manufacturing world, you got to give your supervisors that are on the floor just a little bit of time so that they can take that time to get to know and invest in their people.
Yeah. Well, Tanya, I appreciate you being on. You always frame it and make it sound so reasonable and easy, and that's what I love most about you. Thank you for being a part of the program. I look really forward to your March Madness event. We got the 6 and 26 coming up. One does support the other, so I would suggest checking out both of those programs. You can register on our website, and we will be back next week at 7:30. Until then, let's go out and be good to someone. Take care.
Thank you once again for tuning in to This Week at Work. If you enjoy the show, please like it, share it, and make sure it's on your calendar every week. Ask your burning questions anytime and let us know what topics you'd like us to cover. Just go to hrask.org and be sure to leave a review wherever you catch our show to help other HR pros find us as well. We'll see you next week when we discuss what's happening this week at work.